Colorado County Jane Doe, identified as Isolde Yockey. This case begins on July 17, 1976, in Colorado County, Texas. It was here our Jane Doe was found, leading to an emergency call going out to the Colorado Sheriff's Office. This was near Sheridan, Texas, which is between Houston and San Antonio. She was found near Sandy Creek, which is located on Shell Plant Road in Sheridan, Texas. They would determine she had been where she was found for up to a year, which always makes identification that much harder when dealing with skeletal remains, but they could tell her skull had some sort of damage, although they weren't even able to tell for sure if it was pre or post-mortem. They did, however, follow all of the leads that they had, but unfortunately those were pretty few and far between. The investigation would hit an even bigger brick wall when it was discovered that the cold case was located in a jail basement storage room. They had gone to pull the file to try to figure out who this person was, and the problem is that storage room had flooded. So this affected pretty much everything about the case. The records were gone, and they didn't know what her COD was. In fact, the county had no idea her case even existed because the records were gone. They only found out when they got a letter from Harris County Medical Examiner in 2003 requesting the rights to finally bury her remains. So they would open up a brand new case file and request assistance from the Texas Rangers. In Texas, the Rangers offer their services to states when needed. They would eventually transfer the remains to the University of North Texas Forensic Anthropology. In 2007, they tried to identify her by her dental records. And because they didn't really have any idea where to start with her case, detectives would take to pulling old newspaper articles in hopes of finding something that would relate to her case. Her DNA was done and put into the DNA index system, which operates local, state, and national databases. As I've mentioned before, NamUs is part of this system, and it handles the DNA collections to families. And I learned from a subscriber who messaged me that they had been charging people for this service, and I didn't know that. And I've been encouraging anyone missing family members to go to NamUs and submit their DNA. However, this has now changed. They are no longer charging families. So hopefully NamUs will get more submissions and matches will be found easier. The other option they have is to pay a lot more and do the DNA that is suitable for genetic genealogy. But either way, there was no match in the system at this point. So the next step is always DNA suitable for genetic genealogy, which of course costs a lot more. The weird thing about this is we know that the Charlie Project listed Isolde as missing as of 2004, so she likely was in NamUs as an unidentified doe and as a missing person. So hopefully now they'll be able to collect more and more DNA samples. What actually happened with this one is that in April of 2024, her sister attended a missing person event, and this event was taking samples from people in hopes of making an identification. It's the easiest, cheapest, and fastest way to make a match. Her family would find out she wasn't far from home at all, but just far enough that her family wasn't aware that the Jane Doe about an hour and a half away from her home was a family member they'd been looking for all that time. She went missing from Houston, Texas, and was found in Colorado County, which is 79 miles or 127 kilometers away. She was last seen in Houston on August 1st, 1975. Her sister would say that she and her mother had been looking for her ever since Christmas of 1975, which was about 4 months after she went missing. The missing person report was filed in Harris County, but all along they had believed she moved and left willingly, and it's likely she ended up in Colorado County of her own free will. She was just 30 when she disappeared. She was the oldest of 2 daughters born to a political philosopher and his mathematics teacher wife. There are questions as to whether this is even foul play. Her sister would describe their dad as a risk-taker and adventurer, and she wondered if perhaps it wore off on his daughter. The family didn't expect to see her until Christmas of 1975, so that's why that was the reporting point. She was just 30 and she'd never missed Christmas. So when she didn't show up or call, and they couldn't get a hold of her, they were extremely alarmed, understandably so. By that time, her father unfortunately wasn't alive any longer. He had passed in 1960 at the age of 43. So it was just her mom and sister who were left. The police have limited information so far. I'm sure a lot of that's because the file was accidentally destroyed, but they do need more information to get justice for her. The Houston police are running this case, but I've included the number for the Colorado County Crime Stoppers, and you can call there anonymously. Isolde was an unidentified Jane Doe for 47 years. Had she lived the life she deserved, she would be 79 years old today. The Laguna Hills John Doe, identified as Michael Ray Schlicht. On September 14, 1974, two men were off-roading on a fire road in Laguna Hills, California. Off to the side of the trail that they were traveling on, they would discover a man who hadn't been there all that long, maybe 3 to 5 days. It was determined it was likely due to an accidental overdose of diazepam and alcohol. Diazepam is a benzodiazepine, and it's more commonly known under the name of Valium. It's used for anxiety, seizures, and muscle spasms. The man had blonde hair and had had some restorative dental work. They noted he was wearing a 10.5 size shoe, and he had no clothing on. The strange thing about his COD is it's listed as accidental in a lot of places that I looked. However, there are also others that say it was originally believed to be accidental, and now that is not the presumption. In this case, our John Doe eventually was tied to Randy Kraft, or at least in some articles this is. That's the hard thing about these, you only know what was printed, and it's not always consistent from article to article, and of course, who knows how accurate it is in the first place. If Kraft was indeed involved, he was known as the scorecard. He was responsible for 16 young men in the age group of our John Doe, or even younger. In this case, they knew he was around legal age, if not quite there. It's believed that Kraft is responsible for acts of SA against as many as 60 young men, innocent men, who had barely started out their lives, if even at all. I'm not sure how tenuous the link is between Kraft and our Doe, but in some of the articles it's listed as fact. I don't know. I like to tell you if things clash, and this one is kind of a mess. I will say, though, in this case, an OD alone isn't the method that Kraft used. Although Kraft was known to have lorazepam at his feet in a car. And of course, the fact that our Doe had no clothing on does make me wonder. That's not the usual way someone would accidentally pass. But I guess you never know. It's noted that 6 years after our John Doe was found, his case would be closed. And it would turn out that there were numerous young men in that area classified as losing their lives due to foul play. They were all within a several-mile radius from where our John Doe was found. It does sort of bring up the question, too, of how many people classified as a natural or accidental COD when it's not true. Obviously, all the authorities can do in these cases is the best they can do. It does seem that there may be a compelling case for Kraft being to blame. Kraft is actually still alive and being housed in San Quentin. Othram Labs would process the DNA of our John Doe through roads to justice. They eventually were able to identify possible grandparents to our Doe, and this would eventually lead to a granddaughter of that couple, who in turn would donate her DNA because she had not seen her brother since April of 1974. His age is shown on the screen right now. It would turn out that Michael Ray Schlicht was very far from home. He actually went missing from Cedar Rapids, Iowa in April of 1974 and was found in September of 1974 in Laguna Hills, California. This is, of course, 1,814 miles or 2,919 kilometers from home. It was far away. Michael was only the age that's shown on the screen now. From what I can gather from limited information, it appears there was a 7-month gap between him leaving home and his life being taken. This makes me personally think maybe he ran away, but that's just my own conclusion. It doesn't say so anywhere. So much more needs to be discussed in order to get to who did this for sure, so anyone with information on his travels is asked to call the number on the screen. Michael went unidentified for 49 years, nearly 3 times the amount he spent on this earth. Had he lived the life he deserved, he would be 66 years old today. Huge thanks for watching all the way to the end, and a big thanks to all of you who consistently like and comment on the videos. The whole dance with YouTube is hard sometimes. Whether you leave a full comment or an emoji, it makes a huge difference. It's a huge push toward the videos being suggested to new people. The next goal is 20,000. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other.